Welcome back to Madman Review. If you tuned into our first episode, 10 Deadly Shootings Where Good Guy Stops Bad Guy, you'll know it was a hit, with over 438,000 of you watching. And because you guys loved it so much, we're back with part 2. Big shout out and huge thanks to Heritage.org and the Daily Signal for their monthly articles that spotlight various defensive gun use stories. So, you know how anti-gunners always claim that the whole good guy with a gun stops bad guy with a gun thing is just a myth? Well, this video might just change some minds. Let's be real. Having a legal firearm can definitely tip the scales when things get sketchy. There are even times when people don't need fancy training to make a difference. In this video, we'll talk about 8 more times a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy. Funny thing though, you probably won't see these stories on major news outlets. If you're wondering why they never pop up on CNN or NBC or what have you, I've got 2 words for you. George Soros. And without further ado, let's get to it. Number 8, Dad and Pet Murder. Alright folks, coming into number 8 from Church Road, Virginia, we've got a real roller coaster of a story that just goes to show how important a good guy with a gun can be. So here's the deal. Dylan Thomas Saunders, a 30-year-old guy, is facing charges for fatally shooting his dad, John Thomas Saunders, who was 57, and also taking shots at their family pets. Yeah, you heard that right. Family pets. This all went down on a Sunday morning on Anderson Mill Road after some heated father-son argument. Now, here's where things get wild. When the deputies rolled up to the scene, Dylan's still in the house, but guess what? He's not free roaming. He's being held at gunpoint by a family friend. Man, talk about perfect timing. Detective Drawdy of the Dinwiddie Sheriff's Office gave props to the family friend, saying they likely saved the lives of the rest of the family. I mean, without that good Samaritan packing heat, who can say what might have happened to the others there at the moment? For those wondering about the other folks in the house, they heard the commotion, but they weren't in the same room when the shooting happened. After the initial drama, Dylan apparently took his anger out on the pets, which is heartbreaking.
What was going through his mind? Why would he do something like that? That's the only thing you can think of. And thank God he didn't hurt anybody else.
Detective Drawdy mentioned some underlying issues and drug use being a part of the mix. Now, Dylan's cooling his heels at Meherrin Regional Jail. No bond. But big props to that family friend, huh?
Dylan Saunders is being held at the Meherrin Regional Jail without bond. He's charged with second-degree murder and use of a firearm in commission of a felony. More charges are expected.
Sometimes it's the good guy with the gun that makes all the difference, especially when the cops need a hand. Number 7, jewelry store attempted robbery. Over at the Magic Mall in Orlando, Florida, a jewelry store robbery went south real quick, thanks to the owner packing some heat. So what happened was, 4 guys tried to pull off a heist in broad daylight. Orlando PD tells us at least one of these dudes was armed. But guess what? The store owner wasn't about to let his life's work get snatched. He pulls out his firearm and bam! 2 of the suspects got a taste of instant karma. One fell right there amid scattered jewelry, while the other, well, he didn't make it much further. Jamani Lamb, a customer, painted a vivid scene. Jewels scattered everywhere, shoppers running, sounds of boom, 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 and chaos as the heist went sideways. Imagine being in the mall when all this went down. Like, one lady was just headed there to fix a necklace when bullets started flying, and Lamb, he and his pops hit the deck when the shots rang out. Pete Lopez, a local business owner, summed it up. You can't just rob jewelry stores and not expect consequences. Some of the suspects did manage to escape, but with the cops and that armed store owner on the scene, they've got a whole lot to worry about.
Ms. V owns the booth right next to the jewelry store that was robbed. You see people running?
Of course, they was running and tearing up and everything, trying to get out of here because you had to get down on the ground. You hear gunshot, you gonna stand there?
Well, in a way it does, in a way it don't. But sooner or later they'll get them anyway.
The ages of the suspects involved, but police tell me that this is an ongoing investigation. We aren't getting any more details. For now, in Orange County, I'm Lauren Cervantes, getting results, News 6.
Remember, folks, you never really know who's strapped and ready to defend their turf. Number 6. Burglary with dognapping. Wait, what? Dognapping? Yeah, straight out of Dunn, North Carolina. We got Terica McAllister, a lady who went from never firing a gun to becoming a defender of her castle and her doggo. Imagine walking up to your dog going nuts and a super loud noise. That's how Terica's day started. She walks in to find this dude, Malik Giles, helping himself to her stuff and, get this, trying to snatch her dog. Not on her watch. Terica shouts for him to get out, but he doesn't. So Terica grabs her gun, which she'd never shot before, by the way, and takes charge of the situation. Now, Mr. Dognapper Giles, he ended up with a couple of gunshot wounds and a trip to the hospital. Next stop, the county jail with a whopping $75,000 bond for first-degree burglary and possession of stolen property. The craziest part? This wasn't Terica's first rodeo. A few weeks earlier, another dude tried the same thing. Terica hopes her story inspires other ladies out there to have a plan, especially when facing dangerous situations.
I took action, and I'm very proud of myself that I stood up for myself. As a woman, I stood up for myself.
As she put it, owning a gun and being able to defend herself makes her stronger. Well said. Number 5, Mama Bear versus Intruder. Edinburgh, Texas. Props are being given online and by the Hidalgo County Sheriff to a mom who stepped up big time against a supposed intruder. She and her kids are in her bedroom when suddenly there's an intruder trying to break in. So the home invader, identified by the cops as Carlos Garcia, decided to sneak into a house through the garage. Big mistake, because the lady of the house wasn't about to let anyone threaten her or her kiddos. She locks herself in the bedroom with her kids and gives Garcia a clear warning. Cops are on their way, and oh, by the way, I've got a gun. Did he listen? Nope. So when he tried to push into the room some more, Mom took matters into her own hands. She fired a single shot through the door and scored big time, hitting him in the arm. As you might guess, Garcia hightailed it out of there real quick, but his freedom was short-lived. Deputies nabbed him just 100 yards from the scene, nursing his wounded arm. After a quick medical patch-up, it was straight to the Hidalgo County Adult Detention Center for him. Moral of the story, don't mess with Texas moms, especially when they're packing heat.
A Hidalgo County mom commended online for taking action against an alleged intruder. She's even getting support from the Hidalgo County Sheriff.
Number 4, Sticks and Rocks. So here's a rather upsetting story from Oakton, Virginia. A dude named Eduardo Santos, 24, tried to break into a house using a massive landscaping rock. Crazy, right? Homeowner spots him in his property and tells him to leave. Instead, Eduardo goes all attack mode with a stick. The homeowner tries to get back inside his home, but Santos tackles him, injuring him in the process. Eventually, the homeowner makes it into his home, grabs his gun, while Eduardo's now in his house, charging at him with a big landscaping rock. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well for Eduardo. After making it a few steps inside, he got shot. He didn't make it. Now, here's a drama. Eduardo's squad is outside his home, holding signs saying, Justicia para Eduardo. That's justice for Eduardo for those who skipped Spanish class.
He started to scream. He started to run out. He started to say that someone was following him to kill him.
Their efforts included trying to get him committed to a psychiatric facility, but he ran away. They reported him missing, conducted many hours of physical searches, and say they eventually learned he'd been jailed for 24 hours on charges of public intoxication, but he took off again upon release before they could get to him.
They're thinking he just had a mental breakdown. But let's be real. Break into my house with a rock and threaten my family? Sorry, but I'm pulling the trigger. The homeowner ended up in the hospital for his bumps and bruises, but he's the real MVP for defending his turf. Number 3. HVAC repairman to the rescue. Heard about that intense standoff over in that quiet part of St. Louis, off South Grand on Phillips Place? It was a lovely Wednesday morning when the place was suddenly rocked with gunshots. Some dude casually shot his upstairs neighbor in the leg. Can you believe it? She was screaming out for help. It was like something straight out of a movie. Dude then barricades himself in his apartment. SWAT and everyone turned up. The aftermath was wild. Blood on the sidewalks, busted windows. You could feel how shook everyone was. One lady said it felt like forever before the police showed up after the 911 calls. Turns out, the shooter moved in just last year and was causing issues. One of the neighbors mentioned the guy had been flashing his gun at the victim a couple of weeks ago. But get this. If it wasn't for this absolute legend, Van Young of First Choice Heating and Cooling, things might have been way worse. Neighbors are calling him a real-life hero. This guy was working nearby, heard the shots and screams, and immediately sprang into action.
We hear like 6, 7 shots. We come peek around just to see what's going on. Before we get out of the gangway, we can hear the scream for help. So, as I come out, I didn't initially see her at first. So I'm hearing that scream, so I had to go out to the street, because you can see from right here, you can't see. So I had to go out to the street. Once I seen she was in the street, I kind of like ran to the car for cover or whatever. And she was like, the neighbor was shooting.
With his gun ready, he helped the injured lady to safety, firing off some warning shots at the shooter to stop him from finishing what he started and using his belt to stop her bleeding. Talk about a guy with a gun stepping up when it mattered most. Now, the police have the shooter, but man, what an insane day that was. Number 2, Oil Change Hero. Dude, you've got to hear about this epic hero move in Georgia. So, Kelsey Willis is at a Walmart in Warner Robins just trying to get his oil changed, right? Out of nowhere, he hears this kid screaming, "Please don't beat me." Chills, man. Absolute chills.
I heard the kid screaming, "Please don't beat me," and my instinct kicked in some more, so I sped on up to go get that kid.
Willis sees this guy, Dubé, yanking the kid out of the car and heading into the woods. Fishy, right? Willis isn't messing around. He grabs his gun and follows the noise. Finds Dubé choking the poor kid. Doesn't hesitate for a second. Pulls out his gun, points it at the guy, and holds him there till the cops show up. Willis is basically a real-life action hero, man. Now Dubé is behind bars, charged with aggravated assault and child cruelty. Initially, cops thought it was a kidnapping, but turns out Dubé is related to the kid, so they dropped that angle. Still super messed up, though. The kid's safe now, thanks to Willis, who's getting mad props for stepping up. Willis straight up said if he hadn't intervened, the kid would have been dead and left for the animals. Gives you the shivers just thinking about it. Big salute for Willis for being the good guy with a gun who made sure this didn't turn into a total tragedy. Number 1, 3 stories high. This is an insane story out of Seattle. So, this young woman, initials HA, was trying to escape from this human trafficker, Winston Burt, who goes by Dice Capone on the streets, after he had been treating her and other girls horribly. The situation got so bad, she jumped out of a 3rd-story window to escape him. The real MVP here is this rideshare driver who saw HA in distress. Burt starts shooting at the ride's share van, but plot twist. The driver's got a gun too, and shoots back. Talk about a good guy with a gun helping out the police. This chase went on for blocks, but they managed to get to safety and meet the cops. HA had been through hell. She'd been taken from California to Seattle to, well, be sold, and had tried escaping before. She got real bad injuries, including a broken leg and some serious facial stuff. So, guess what? Cops nabbed Burt as he was dipping out of the rental place with some other ladies. Dude's looking at a laundry list of charges. Think human trafficking, promoting prostitution, assault, and even some drive-by shooting action. Official court docs stated that he's the big boss of a sex trafficking gig that's been up and running in like 3 different states. Thankfully, he's off the streets now. Props to that armed rideshare driver for stepping up big time.
Statistics on sex trafficking are hard to track, but But Mar Bretman, who runs the Seattle nonprofit Businesses Ending Slavery and Trafficking, says research estimates there's 500 to 700 people being trafficked in the Seattle area.